This is We All Be News and Radio.
Ron Hurd. Get up out of bed. Let's go. Let's go. Ron Hurd. That's the word. Get out of bed. Give me a jingle. My number 051. Get out of bed. Let's go. Don't be afraid. This is Herb Smith calling you. Herb Smith. All right, I know you're famous and all that kind of stuff, but let's go. Get out of bed.
Free Health Seminar with Dr. Joel Wallach, July 20th at 2 p.m. at the Cordova Country Club in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. Wallach, founder of Longevity Essential Life Sciences, is a Nobel Prize nominee, has published 75 peer reviews. He's the author of Diseases of Exotic Animals, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, and the bestseller Epigenetics. Take control of your health by using nutrition. Seating is limited, so contact Kelly Herron at 901-834-7420 for details and early registration.
And welcome, family, to another wonderful edutainment, infotainment edition of the Artivist Presents We All Be News and Radio. I'm your host for the empowerment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2, C2, H2, the Artivist. And thank you, family. It's a wonderful day. It's a beautiful night. It's always a great day to be alive, regardless of the weather outside. Remember that. It's always a great day to be above ground, regardless of the weather outside. And we got a treat tonight. It's going to be an excellent show. If you want to participate in the show, please feel free to call in at area code 646-652-4593. Once again, that's area code 646-652-4593. Now, if you're scared to get on the air, we're going to open up the chat room. So please feel free, family, to engage other participants in the chat room with your questions, your comments, your suggestions. And guess what, family? They might be read on the air. So whatever you got going on in the chat room, you're definitely a part of the conversation. So without further ado, we're going to open it up and let it do what it do with none other, the one and only, scholars and laymen, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, curious and the also indifferent, I welcome you to our featured guest, the one and only Dr. Joel Wallach. How you doing tonight, sir?
Very fine, sir. Thank you, Brother Ron. Appreciate you and your hospitality.
Oh, it's awesome, man. You're from the Midwest, so you understand how hospitality goes. I actually got a connection with you. I actually went to undergrad at Washington University in St. Louis. So I love St. Louis, one of my favorite places in the world. And it's awesome to have a guy who has that type of connection. Also, you're doing great things for the people in the world. And could you please just give us a short synopsis of who Dr. Joel Wallach is for the uninitiated?
Okay. Sure. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I have a degree from agriculture from the University of Missouri. I have a degree of veterinary medicine from the University of Missouri. I'm a comparative pathologist where I do autopsies and pathology on animals and people. This is at Washington University in St. Louis, and the St. Louis Zoo and the Shaw's Botanical Gardens, not too far away. The Washington University right there, all together with those two agents. Went back to school, actually worked quite a bit with Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, Andrew Young from the Civil Rights Movement, Andy Young in Atlanta, Georgia. Also, Theo Ratliff from the Atlanta Hawks, later on for the L.A. Lakers, and do a lot of work with the Sickle Cell Foundation of Georgia there in Atlanta. And, of course, as you pointed out, I've done 75 scientific papers based on autopsies and about 11 books for science and 14 books for the general public, most famous of which is Dead Doctors Don't Lie. The newest one, Epigenetics, it talks about a replacement for the concept of genetics. I actually have a book out called Black Gene Lies, too. It's actually paid for by Pastor Creflo Dollar from Atlanta there also, because I was able to help his daughter who had terrible asthma, was not responding to medication. Praise God, we were able to cure her in 2 weeks. And He paid for the first 100,000 copies of that book, Black Gene Lies, to be published. And the purpose of the book, of course, was to look at the diseases said to be genetic in the black community, which are not. They're simple nutritional deficiency diseases. Things like diabetes, we've known for 70 years as a simple mineral deficiency disease. We can make anybody's church family, your neighborhood, diabetes-free in usually a couple of weeks to a couple of months at the longest. Arthritis is easy to reverse. We can support maintenance repair of cartilage. I don't care if you've been bone-to-bone arthritis for months or years. People who are on kidney dialysis, we can support healthy kidney function so they're off of dialysis in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Heart problems, obesity, these are very easy to reverse and without surgery. You don't need heart transplants, and for most cases, it's easy to give nutrients to make the heart happy and rebuild everything. Same thing with obesity. It's a simple deficiency disease. It's not lack of exercise. It's not eating too much. It's actually a nutritional deficiency disease. You take the nutrients and obesity goes away. So this is what I've been doing for 36 years, Brother Ron, and I appreciate you allowing me to share this with you. In the book, Epigenetics looks at the nutritional requirements of your genes, your DNA, and your RNA. People forget that we have a potential to live a long time. We have a potential to live well beyond 200. The only reason why we don't is because we don't take in the raw materials necessary to make your genes and your DNA and RNA happy to accomplish it. It's just like a car. If you're only putting 6 quarts of dirt from Texas in there instead of 6 quarts of oil, you're not going to go 300,000 miles. You're going to go 400 miles before the engine burns up. Maybe not even that far. And so the idea is to learn everything your genes, your DNA, and RNA need to maximize your potential for longevity and health, function, intelligence, IQ, speed, strength. We can do that just like we do for animals. We've done the research already. It's just a matter of employing everything we've learned. And it's in the book, Epigenetics. It tells you how to get rid of 900 different diseases, how to prevent many, and how to get rid of many of them even after you got them.
Wow, that's amazing. So you saying, well, I'm a black person, and I know you speaking of church. Speaking of church, you're going to have service in Memphis, Tennessee on July the 20th, this Sunday, at 2 p.m. at the Cordova Country Club, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so we're going to have church on Sunday. I mean, church on time we're going to meet, we're going to congregate, get all this great information from Dr. Wallach and his people. And I just want to say as well, I keep, even in my family, I go to the doctor and whatnot, people say, does your family have a history of high blood pressure and all this stuff? And I keep on thinking to myself, how can high blood pressure be inherited? Or how can cancer be inherited? Is that true or not?
They're not inherited. That was a theory. You have to appreciate, Brother Ron, the halls of science are filled with thousands of failed medical theories. Mm-hmm. In the old days, they thought everything was caused by evil spirits, and then diseases were caused by little gods sitting up on planets determining what disease you got, what was going on with you based on how many goats you burned to them and sacrificed. And then, of course, there was the 4 humors. If your humors were out of balance, they would bloodlet you. They would put leeches on you, suck blood out of you, or cut your veins, let you bleed to death, trying to cure you. And then, of course, they thought that all diseases were caused by eating the wrong fats, eating too much cholesterol. That's not true. We learned that cholesterol is actually a good thing. If you get cholesterol-lowering drugs, you're going to get Alzheimer's disease. You're going to have low T. You're going to have ED. You're going to have menopause. You're going to have adrenal exhaustion. All these things are caused by a cholesterol deficiency. High cholesterol does not cause any disease. That's a failed theory. Well, another failed theory is everything's caused by genes. It's not caused by genes. The reason why some things are generational, that's why doctors have the silly idea that it's genetic, is because they have a gluten intolerance, and that is passed on through the cord blood of women and breast milk through women. It's not a genetic thing, but it is passed on. The sensitivity is passed on through cord blood and breast milk. And so it gives the appearance that people with diabetes and high blood pressure and cancer and so forth have this because of their genetics. That's absolutely not true. And again, diabetes is a very easy one. High blood pressure is a very easy one to get rid of. Usually in weeks it's gone. It's a simple nutritional deficiency. Obesity is easy to get rid of. You can lose 2 pounds a day. You can lose 140 pounds in 100 days and get rid of your weight problem very simply and keep it off as long as you're taking the right minerals, because mineral deficiencies cause obesity. Mineral deficiencies cause diabetes. Mineral deficiencies cause high blood pressure, and so on. And so what we do is through the book, Epigenetics, we teach people how to supplement properly to prevent each disease. And myself, I've been doing this for 68 years, Brother Ron. In June, I turned 75.
Wow.
I have not been sick for 68 years. I've never been on a prescription drug. If everybody were like me medically, Brother Ron, the medical system would be real humble because their patients only visit them once every 75 years.
Mm. So you're telling me that the medical establishment is actually in some type of conspiracy to keep the good news from the people, to keep people sick and dependent upon the system?
It's not a conspiracy, Brother Ron. It's just a plan.
Okay.
The plan is that they are the only protected monopoly in America. They're self-policing. There's no oversight by anybody. Even the insurance companies that pay the bills don't go through their records. They're self-policing. And so I don't know if you know this, but the statistics says this came from the Center for Disease Control right there in Atlanta. They said that each year in America, Brother Ron, medical doctors in their workplace, which is hospitals and clinics, kill, injure, and infect 15 million Americans every year.
Wow.
Each year in America, medical doctors kill, injure, and infect 15 million Americans. They get a walk because they're protecting monopoly and self-policing. This isn't a conspiracy. This is published by the Center for Disease Control. Again, each year in America, medical doctors infect 2 million people in hospitals alone, of which 90,000 die every year. Can you tell me what commercial airlines could stay in business if they're killing 90,000 passengers a year? What fast food place could stay in business, Brother Ron, if they killed 90,000 customers every year? They couldn't. It's only because medical doctors are self-policing and they're a protected monopoly. And so my goal is to teach people how to take care of themselves. And when I come there on Sunday, I'm going to teach people how to do their own physicals for less than $5. It'll be much more accurate and much more safe than the physicals doctors do for you for $2,000. And you don't risk being killed by screening tests such as colonoscopic exams, puncturing your intestine and killing you. I'll show you how to get rid of your diabetes, how to get rid of the high blood pressure, how to get rid of the obesity, how to get rid of arthritis. I did this for Andy Young, former mayor of Atlanta, former ambassador to the UN, great civil rights leader. In 1991, he was actually scheduled, had the dates to have a double knee replacement. They canceled his surgeries, and it took me 90 days. I rebuilt his knees perfectly, regrew his cartilage.
Wow.
And he has been really best friends since 1991. He introduces me to a lot of people. I'm the guy that rebuilt Evander Holyfield's heart when he had his heart attack during his championship match. I rebuilt his heart, and he came back and was able to box for 8 more years. Who comes back after a heart attack and passes the physicals for the boxing commissions to box again? Nobody even tries.
Wow.
Well, Evander Holyfield were able to rebuild his heart. And when Nelson Mandela got out of jail, Andy Young sent him our program, and he lived another 20 years. He died at 95 because he was taking our program for 20 years.
Wow, that's amazing, man. That's an impressive resume right there. I mean, in terms of, like, you saved Andy Young's knees, you saved Holyfield's career as well as his heart, and you also prolonged Nelson Mandela's life. I mean, you should get, like, a Nobel Prize for that. You should have won one just for that alone. I mean, I also want to ask you this, because those are brother. Yes, definitely. And also, what turned me on to you was actually Brother Anthony Hood out of Alabama. He's one of your disciples, people that really believe in your product. We're going to talk about your product as well, too, what you are giving to people in order to empower themselves. But he turned me on to you because he told me about some of the videos out there in YouTube, one of your most famous lectures called Dead Doctors Don't Lie, but also you had a series called Dead Athletes Don't Lie. And it's just very interesting to me because when we think of athletes, we think of folks in top physical peak condition, like excellent performers. But he asked me a question, do you know, Brother Ron, any athletes that have lived to be at least 100 years old? And I was blown away because when I looked at your video, you was actually naming all these athletes that died rather young.
We're exactly right, and that's why we entitled that CD, Dead Athletes Don't Lie. Exactly. You would think that professional athletes, what are they paid for? What are they paid millions of dollars an event for is to stay healthy. You think about it. Athletes are paid to be healthy examples, the peak of human physical ability. They're just supposed to eat right, supplement right, sleep right, eat right, train every day. I mean, they're getting paid to do what everybody's supposed to do. Okay, and so you take all the professional athletes, all the various sports, put them together, The average lifespan, according to all the experts, is 62, except for football players. You take out the suicides, they only live to be 51. This was the statistics from the actuaries for the insurance companies. And there's never been a professional athlete ever lived to be 100. Now, why is that? Since they're spending so much effort and so much money and so much time trying to be healthy and fit and perform well, what is going on here? Well, the universal thing that all athletes do, whether they're a gymnast or a football player, a basketball player, soccer player, rugby player, hockey player, boxer, track star, they all sweat. Mm-hmm. And sweat is not water. Sweat is a soup that contains all the nutrients floating around in your blood. So if you just drink water, you're in trouble because over time, you're losing all these nutrients. You're just replacing with water. You're hydrating, but you're not replacing the nutrients you're sweating out. And then, what if you're drinking one of these other sports drinks that have 2 nutrients in it? You know the famous ones. Mm-hmm. And what if you're drinking next famous ones that only have 6 nutrients in it? You're not going to do very well if you're sweating out 65 to 90 nutrients. Well, our Rebound, which was developed for Theo Ratliff, because he was due to have a double knee replacement when he was 28. The cartilage popped off his right hip. He fractured his wrist catching a pass from his teammate, and his career was over for the Atlanta Hawks. So we rebuilt him in 90 days, but not only did we rebuild him with the 90 essential nutrients, but we also created the sports drink called Rebound, which has 100 nutrients in it. Now the Harlem Globetrotters, the entire team uses our programs, including the Rebound. The entire Denver Nuggets team uses our program, the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, to support and promote maintenance, repair of cartilage, ligaments, tendons, all the things that get injured with athletes. But they also use the Rebound sports drink because it has 100 nutrients in it. And not only do they rehydrate when they drink Rebound, but they also replenish all the nutrients they're sweating out. So it's a very unique product. And so we've been able to really make athletes healthier. There's a lady, Felicia Jones, from, I guess she's from L.A., and she has 3 gold medals in the Olympics from women's basketball team. She's 6'5", great lady, 6'5", and her career was over after her first gold medal because she'd torn her Achilles tendon. We rebuilt that with the 90 essential nutrients and then threw in the Rebound for her. She came back and won with her team 2 more gold medals. And she's age 34. She can outplay all the 20-year-olds because she uses our products, and just a great, great lady basketball player.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's all I was thinking about when I heard in one of your lectures about what happened to Reggie Lewis. I was a young guy. I can remember like it was yesterday how, it really struck a chord in me what happened to Reggie Lewis, the basketball player for the Celtics. And that's how I think about Hank Getters, the other basketball player that died on the court, in front of a live, television audience and whatnot. And you're basically saying that these athletes could have been saved if they took like a mixture of 90 nutrients. That's your oh wow, okay.
There's about 10,000 young athletes in America die each year suddenly from what's called cardiomyopathy, heart disease, or ruptured aneurysm. Mm-hmm. There was a gal by the name of Ronalda Pierce. She played for Florida State. She was 19 years old, 6'5", and she dropped dead during a game in her freshman year. And she was going to be the woman athlete for the next 20 years because she was a great athlete, but she's just drinking these sports drinks that had 2 to 6 nutrients in it instead of Rebound. Nobody's giving her the 90 essential nutrients, and she died of a ruptured aneurysm, which was caused by a deficiency of a single mineral. And all they have to do is take the 90 essential nutrients, supplement with the Rebound instead of these other sports drinks with only 2 nutrients. Rebound has 100. And then there was a guy by the name of Wes Leonard who was playing for Fenville High School in Michigan, a couple of years ago. He's 16 years old. It was a semi-final playoff, and the 2 teams were tied 52-52 at the buzzer, so they had to do, ironically, a sudden death playoff. He gets the tip-off, runs the 10 steps and slam dunks. He gets the winning points, 54-52. And as his 4 teammates on the court are lifting him up to their shoulders, he drops dead of a cardiomyopathy heart attack at age 16, which is a simple deficiency of that 1 mineral. And then, of course, Reggie Lewis died of the same thing. The captain of the Boston Celtics at 28 years old. And 10,000 athletes here, the Pee Wee Leagues, the Pop Warner Leagues, junior high, high school, college. It's just crazy that these athletes are dropping dead from simple nutritional deficiencies. And it's all because of the ignorance of the sports medicine doctors, the trainers, the nutritionists. And that's why Brother Ron, only dead doctors don't lie.
Wow. That's amazing. I think about it. I mean, we trust these people with our lives. Like, doctors have such a special place in society. Like, we trust these people to do what's in our best interest. They take an oath saying they will do no harm to their patients. But what you tell me that people are willing to look the other way because it's a money thing.
You're exactly right. And for instance, I can actually cure rheumatoid arthritis in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Actually caused by an infection with a bug called mycoplasma. And you can use an antibiotic called minocycline, which is a member of the tetracycline family, and kill that bug in 2 weeks, just like you can kill syphilis in 2 weeks with penicillin. You can kill strep throat in 2 weeks with penicillin. You can kill this bug that causes rheumatoid arthritis in 2 weeks with minocycline. And then use our 90 essential nutrients, and I can legally say to support and promote maintenance, repair all the damage that's been done to the joints and the cartilage and the tendons and ligaments, the joint capsules and tendon sheaths. When you have rheumatoid arthritis, it might take 3 or 4 months to rebuild all that. Then you're done with it. But a doctor will only make $300 an office call if he cures your rheumatoid arthritis. Instead, he's going to treat you for 25 years, Brother Ron. And he's going to do joint replacements and treat all the complications and give you gold shots, and he'll give you things like Enbrel, which is a prescription drug, and he's going to run up a bill of $750,000 over 25 years. So remember, they're self-policing. They're a protected monopoly. There's no oversight for anybody. And so there's absolutely no law requiring a doctor to cure you when there's a cure available. So they always choose to treat you rather than cure you, even though there's a cure available.
Wow. So, like, have you talked to any doctors about, what they're doing, their practices and whatnot? Have any doctors been open in the establishment to what you're doing and what you're promoting?
No, sir. I've talked to literally thousands of doctors over the years. I've never gotten a single MD to say, okay, I'm skeptical, Wallach, but, let me give you a guy who's got real bad diabetes. Let's see what you can do with that. Nobody's ever done that. I have a guy who owns the third largest medical laboratory in America, and he had terrible diabetes. His legs were starting to tingle, and he was eventually getting his feet cut off, and he started to get blurry vision. He was worried about going blind. This guy is a billionaire. He knew the best endocrinologist. He had his finger on the pulse of all the new drugs coming out for diabetes, and none of it would work for him. And in 90 days, we were able to wean him off all his diabetes medication. He's perfectly normal now. And so, he's a PhD in medical chemistry, but as far as medical doctors say, give me somebody with bone-to-bone arthritis, give me 90 days. If I could regrow their cartilage, would you do this for the rest of your patients? No. I can't make enough money curing them.
Wow. But what about, wow, it is shaking me to the core. And also you talked about how a lot of billionaires don't live that long as well. The Forbes magazine article, I believe, that came out in 2004, that said that the average, age or lifespan of a billionaire was 78. And I kept on thinking about Steve Jobs, like he couldn't even buy extended warranty on his life, even though he had billions in the bank.
Well, Steve Jobs actually died at 56, and that was in 2004. He got the statistic exactly correct, Brother Ron. Back in, 2004, the average billionaire died at 78, but 7 years later, in 2011, the average billionaire died at 66.
Wow. And
Steve Jobs died at 56 because they all listen to doctors. They have the best, most expensive doctors, and the doctors know nothing about nutrition. Your body requires 90 essential nutrients, whether you're a hummingbird or a human being or an elephant. All vertebrates require 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, and 3 essential fatty acids, just like we require oxygen and water. And pharmaceuticals do not give you any nutrition. Pharmaceuticals, with the exception of antibiotics, do not cure anything. Brother Ron, antibiotics are the only prescription drugs that cure anything. Like I said, you can cure rheumatoid arthritis with minocycline. You can cure syphilis with penicillin. You can cure strep throat with penicillin. But other than those antibiotics, there's not a single pharmaceutical that's designed to cure anything. Because if they cure diseases in 3 days with a prescription drug, pharmaceutical company's not going to make any money. The doctor's not going to make any money. So all prescriptions other than antibiotics, Brother Ron, are designed to relieve symptoms. The more your disease advances, the worse it gets, the more drugs you need to take to continue to relieve symptoms. So by the time Grandma is 87 years old, she's on 17 prescription drugs to deal with all the symptoms, and we can, even at her age, still get rid of most of them with a supplement program with vitamins and minerals and 90 essential nutrients.
Wow, that you telling me mind-blowing stuff, but I feel like, what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me, because people think about the fact that when we look at celebrities, a lot of them have prescription drug problems, but the ones who use the quote-unquote illegal bad drugs, they live a long time. I look at Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones. Now I look at somebody like Michael Jackson, who's dead. Now I look at some other people who's died, and they had problems with prescription drugs. So what you telling me that the folks that supposed to be looking out for our best interests are basically killing us softly and slowly with their drugs or with their whatever they're peddling,
That's right.
Correct?
They're using Americans as an ATM machine. In particular, the black community is more egregiously abused by the medical system than the white community.
So black folks have a real good reason to be paranoid of the medical establishment. That's what you're saying. The paranoid is well-founded.
That's right. Well, see, the black community does not have black genes that make them have more diabetes, more high blood pressure, and more arthritis, and more cancer, and more heart disease, more obesity. There's no such black gene, okay? And, of course, the doctors keep stroking that place. They just keep saying, yeah, you got this terrible gene, but if you take my drugs, you'll live a little bit longer and be a little more comfortable. And so the black community overuses the medical system because they've been convinced, wrongly, but they've been convinced that they have this terrible gene that causes all this disease. They really got to ally themselves with the doctors very closely so the doctors can protect them. And when they figure out how to get a genetically engineered gene and install it in them and get rid of that bad gene, that everything be fine. Well, there are no genetically transmitted diseases. There are no genetically transmitted diseases. Just remember, there are genes, our DNA and RNA require 90 essential nutrients so we can maximize our potential for health and longevity. Now, your genes, your grandma could live to be 102 and your granddaddy lived to be 98, and they drank and smoked and hell-raised and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They always do the same thing. And you drink and you smoke and you hell-raised, you died 48 of a heart attack. And that's because you didn't do the same thing they did. Now, unknowingly, they supplemented with all 90 essential nutrients. That's the crazy thing about it. Well, you can't get them now without supplementation. Back then, unknowingly, they were getting them by lifestyle. Okay, we don't do the same thing they did. And so that's why we're in trouble. We must supplement. Otherwise, you will never be able to maximize the genetic potential of your genes, your DNA, and RNA.
Well, let me say this then. I mean, I'm definitely hearing what you're saying, because every time I look on TV, you see a sanitarian, and they ask them what they do to live so long. They either say they smoke every day, or they eat a lot of bacon, or they eat a lot of fat, and all this stuff. And I guess it's very interesting. They doing everything that they tell you not to do, but they're living longer. So you're basically telling me if you're a couch potato will live longer than a well-trained and physically, quote-unquote, fit athlete. That's what you're telling me right now.
That's correct. That's correct. Usually couch potatoes live to be 78, 75,
wow.
80, 85. Professional athletes live to be 62, except football players are 51.
So you telling me a lazy couch potato person could live longer than a billionaire or an athlete?
That's right. That's right.
So don't do nothing.
All the details in the book, Epigenetics, and the subtitle is a lot of fun, Brother Ron. The subtitle is The Death of the Genetic Theory of Disease Transmission. The Death of the Genetic Theory of Disease Transmission. And everybody should read this new book, Epigenetics, because epigenetics replaces the failed science, the failed theory of genetics.
Wow. And where can we purchase these books? Like, how can we get a copy of these books that you're selling?
I'm going to give you a toll-free number.
Okay.
Okay. And people can call this toll-free number. It's 1-855-316-8326. Again, that's toll-free, Brother Ron, 855-316-8326. And including taxes and shipping and all that nonsense is $35. The book's worth $1 million because it's going to add 25 to 50 healthy years to your life, better yet to your kids' lives, and everybody's going to be happier and healthier. Epigenetics is the title. Epigenetics, The Death of the Genetic Theory of Disease Transmission. Again, it's $35, which includes shipping and handling. It's 1-855-316-8326. And really appreciate the opportunity to share all this information with your listeners. I really appreciate what you're doing for human beings, and I just love you to pieces for it.
All right, it's an honor to be received like that. I mean, I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I just want to say, I mean, I'm just thinking about you're just offering so much right now, the stuff you're dropping on, what's going on with black folks in this medical establishment, because I look at Tuskegee experiment. I look at what happened to Sister Henrietta Lacks at Johns Hopkins University. I look at what the father of gynecology, J. Merriam Sims, did to enslave African women. He tortured them without any anesthesia. And I just want to know, would it be safe to say that what's really killing a lot of black folks is racism and white supremacy? Not diabetes, not high blood pressure, not heart disease.
You're closer than you think. Okay. This all goes back to a fellow by the name of Francis Galton, who is Charles Darwin's cousin.
Okay. And
Francis Galton was a son of a very wealthy physician and a Wedgwood girl. Wedgwood was a very famous British plates and dishes, and very wealthy. She was Francis Galton's mother was the sister of Charles Darwin's mother, and Francis Galton was in medical school, and he decided that we can speed up human evolution by using the same principles used in livestock on farms and animals on farms. We can do what's called selective breeding. That's why they have animal shows. They have horse shows and dog shows. What they want to do is get the blue ribbon winning males to breed with the blue ribbon winning females and have blue ribbon winning babies and make the breed better and stronger and more performance and more production and so forth. Longer lifespans, healthier, perfect perfection of the breed or of the species. So we can do the same thing for humans. We can do this selective breeding with humans. And Francis Galton came up with the idea of marriage licenses. Before Francis Galton, everybody was just getting on their knees way out in the boonies, away from churches and cities, and they'd give their vows to each other, and Grandma would sign as a witness in the Bible, and that was how they had weddings. But he said, no, that's not good enough. We have to have marriage certificates, marriage licenses, so we have to interview them. We have to have a bureaucrat to interview the couples, and if they have a cleft palate, we won't give them a marriage license because they got a defect. If they're shriveled up arm or there's a birth defect, we won't give them a marriage certificate. If they can't read, we won't give them a birth certificate. If they failed in business, we won't give them a marriage certificate. And so he said, we have to come up with a master race. And you have to remember that Francis Galton was around in the middle 1800s, and he came up with the concept of the master race. They all had to be tall, blue-eyed, blonde-haired. And Hitler used that during the Second World War 100 years later. And, of course, the medical system, it's kind of crazy how this works. Back right after the Second World War, many Nazi doctors were hung. And, of course, they took some of the surviving medical doctors who were Nazi doctors, they eluded capture, and they gave over the records of murders of 40 million people and all the experiments they did on them to the U.S. government, who then pardoned these guys, made them professors in the medical schools, and they were the ones that came up with the Tuskegee experiment. And they promised these 400 black men they would get this new penicillin, which was a cure for syphilis, and they gave them only water by injection instead of penicillin to see if black men died from the same symptoms of syphilis as white men did. What a terrible, terrible thing. But it was based on all this Nazi stuff, the master race, and going back all the way to Francis Galton and the marriage license stuff. Well, they did the same thing up in Canada with the Canadian Indians. They killed thousands and thousands of babies up there, thousands. They found mass graves here this year where they had used these kids as experimental animals, so to speak, for new drugs and things. It was just awful what they did up there in Canada. Same principle. It goes back to white supremacy, which is a kind of a modern word for the master race, which goes back to the 1800s and Francis Galton. Hitler picked up on it, and of course, it was terrible. Up until 1970, doctors could castrate a black man because he couldn't read. Doctors would do what was called a Mississippi, you may have heard of this, a Mississippi appendectomy in women. American doctors sterilized 100,000 American black women. They sterilized 100,000 black men in America. And it took a Supreme Court judgment ruling in 1970 to stop all that as being obviously unconstitutional, but it took a Supreme Court ruling to stop all that. because doctors were making too much money sterilizing black men and black women to keep the population down.
Wow, that's amazing. You said the Mississippi epidemic. What do you call it? The Mississippi, what is it called again, Doc?
Mississippi appendectomy.
Yeah, because,
they're taking these women's appendix.
Yeah,
a
famous. Wow. It was a famous civil rights leader from Mississippi, the one and only Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. She actually was sterilized against her wishes. She didn't know she was sterilized until the doctor told her afterwards, because she wanted kids. Yeah, so what you're saying is very true.
Yep. Yeah, that was just many of the terrible things. And, of course, all the colonization that all the European countries are doing, England, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Belgium, we're chopping up Africa, South America, Asia, because they all wanted to be the master race, all based on this Francis Galton stuff and Hitler stuff. Every country wanted to be in control of the world and become the master race. It was all started by this guy in the middle of 1800. Charles Darwin's his cousin, Francis Galton.
So also what you're telling me, this is news to me, that the Nazis actually infiltrated the U.S. medical establishment, because not only did they help build the CIA and the NASA space program, but they also helped, influence the medical establishment. What you're telling me, or telling our listeners.
That's right. 100 of these Nazi SS medical doctors eluded capture, were not put on trial, and hung, as most of them were, right after the Second World War in the Nuremberg war crimes trials. There were no generals hung for war crimes. There was no lower-level bureaucrats hung for war crimes. It was all the Nazi doctors who were doing all these experiments on all the Jewish people and the gypsies and the Catholics, everybody else. It was the doctors. And so 100 of them were pardoned and made professors in the medical schools. And then the Americans got the pharmaceutical industry as reparations. That's how the Germans paid us for our war debt for beating them in the war. The English got the steel factories. The French got all the livestock and the farm equipment. And we got the pharmaceutical industry. And the pharmaceuticals companies were family companies, and they supported the Nazi war machine. We brought them over here. We made them publicly traded, sold the stock, and that paid off the war debt. And this included Bayer, IG Farben, Pfizer, Roche. All the famous pharmaceutical companies were family-owned companies. They weren't publicly traded in Germany. They were brought over here to pay off the war debt. And so between the pharmaceutical companies, which were Nazi companies, the medical doctors from Germany, who were Nazis, this is called Operation Paperclip, where we gave them pardons in exchange for them giving us all the scientific records that they accumulated by murdering and cutting up and butchering and torturing 40 million people.
Wow.
We gave them pardon and gave them jobs in medical schools in exchange for all the information. They wouldn't burn it.
Oh, my. Wow. So you said this is called Operation Paperclip, so people can find more information about it.
Yes, sir. Operation Paperclip. Yeah, you can look that up. And not only, as you point out, not only do we get rocket scientists, not only do we get physicists and other scientists, but we also got doctors in the pharmaceutical companies.
Wow.
All from Nazi Germany.
Wow. So we're going to take callers as well. Please feel free to join in this conversation. I didn't know he was going to be doing all this, because I've been looking at your videos and trying to do my homework, but you're offering another insight that I have yet to hear from a lot of people on this, and I just feel like what you're saying makes a whole lot of sense to me. I had a great aunt that told me, you got to trust your instincts. You can't trust nobody else. Trust your instincts. You got to trust yourself. And I think that what you are saying, people need to really look into, because you're dropping names, you're naming companies, you're dropping stuff that people can actually research. They couldn't research this 20 years ago so easily like we can now with the Internet. So I just want to ask you this. I mean, I'm just very curious. Would we have been better off, instead of having Obamacare, utilizing some of the things you said about the 90 essential nutrients, actually using your products instead of embracing, quote-unquote, Obamacare as a nation? Yeah,
exactly. We can do our own physicals. We can avoid the medical system. Remember, Brother Ron, I have not been to a doctor, with me being the patient, for the last 68 years. I've never been on a prescription medication. 75 years old. I'm not sick. I don't have it. My blood pressure ranges from 90 over 60. My pulse is 38. My resting pulse is 38. Most doctors think I'm on drugs. You got to be taking medication. No, I'm not. I've never been on a prescription drug. I do take the 90 Essential Nutrients. I've been doing it for 68 years. It costs me about $3 a day, about half the cost of a cup of coffee, exotic coffee. And everybody can do the same thing. You just have to be passionate about it. And experts tell us, Brother Ron, that our kids are going to be worse off. Our kids are not going to live as long as us. They'll be the first generation in America that do not live as long as their parents unless we change what we're doing. Well, we have to take over here because the medical system has not only failed us, but they have done us wrong. They're using us as an ATM machine because there are many, many cures for many things. Your body will respond very well to nutrition. And so I always tell people, hey, if I fail you, in 90 days ago, do your surgery. You know, nobody's ever done the surgery after 90 days because I can legally say support and promote maintenance, repair of cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc between the vertebrae, arteries, veins, kidneys, heart, brain, eyes. I actually had one doctor call me a liar, well, many, but one in a meeting, public meeting, about, 8 years ago, Brother Ron. The first question in the question-answer period after my meeting was, my grandmother is 85 years old. She's been legally blind for 8 years. Can you help her with her macular degeneration? I said, yeah, I can reverse that. Guy jumps up in the back of the room, Brother Ron, says, Wallach, you're a liar. I'm an eye doctor, and there's no way you can reverse macular degeneration. I said, well, I'll tell you what. You get me 12 of your patients that are legally blind for 6, 8, 10 years. If I can get half of them, if I can get 6 out of the 12 to see 20/20 in 90 days, would you apologize? If we can get 2 out of 12, I'll apologize. So truthfully, the next day, this eye doctor, MD eye doctor, brought 27 charts of people who were legally blind for 6, 8, 10 years, 27, put them on the program, and in 90 days, all of them could read 20/20. Only 2 required glasses. The other 25 didn't even need glasses. They've been legally blind for 6, 8, 10 years, and in 90 days, they could all read 20/20. Now, he kept his word. He made me apologize. He made me an apology, and he called it Seeing is Believing, and he put it on a CD. So the CDs are also available, and it teaches you what to do for macular degeneration, cataracts, and glaucoma. Very easily to deal with. Cataracts, in the earliest of stages, are reversible. There is a point in which you can't make them perfect, but you can stop them from advancing. Once you get somebody who's got a total cataract, is totally mature, they need a surgery. So the quicker you jump on this, the better off you are. Macular degeneration, I don't care how long you've been legally blind, you have a really good probability of getting it totally reversed. Glaucoma is caused by blockages of small arteries in the eye. We can support and promote healthy blood flow through the small arteries in the eye, and they're able to wean off their drops and don't need the drops anymore for their glaucoma. And so we do this literally thousands of times a year, Brother Ron. And so we teach people how to do that. And the nice thing about it is if somebody likes to do this and they help other people, I will pay them. Okay, they actually make a check from us, and this is all in the book Epigenetics.
And also, I want to make sure I get people, because people I know they have been asking, people have been curious about where they get some of your products and whatnot. I know Sister Kelly Herron, one of your people, she has told me that, you also have a 1-855 number as well, Doctor, that people can call in and make orders.
Right. Yeah, they can either call Kelly Herron, that you gave it out, 901-834-7420, or the toll-free number, 855-316-8326. That's toll-free 1-855-316-8326. And we really are looking for some help here to share this information. And so not only we can help people who don't want to help us, say if they just want to help themselves or help their spouse or their kids or their grandmom, their neighbor, their pastor, we love to do that. And, of course, I'll tell you what, we'll only sell it to them wholesale. We will not charge retail for anybody when it comes to our products. And, of course, they can actually earn enough money to have theirs paid for free, okay, by helping other people.
I also want to talk to you. I just think that your life is such a interesting, you're the really true, embodiment of George Bernard Shaw's The Unreasonable Man quote. You are the true Mr. Unreasonable, but you're so nice. You're a very giving and kind person, but you're also Mr. Unreasonable when it comes to the establishment. I just want to ask you, have you faced any major lawsuits against your products?
No, sir. We have not had any lawsuits against our product. The reason is this. It's based on hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars worth of research. Okay? Again, my background is I have 3 doctorates plus my degree in agriculture. I've done an enormous amount of research. This big book that I did in the first major project, a 10-year project, 20,000 autopsies, 10 million chemistries, and that book's in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure. And I know how to find other people's research and my own research. And basically, this is not something I've conjured up just because, I'm thinking about what we might do to help people. I'm thinking about what I can do to help people, but it's based on billions of dollars worth of research. And so this is perfected over time in laboratory animals and in people. So everything we do is tested. Everything we do has been based on hard science, and there's no wiggle room here. It's just absolutely drop-dead predictable as gravity. I've been doing this for 36 years, Brother Ron, and it never fails. It never fails. So I always tell people, look, if you're on the dialysis, doctor's got you on the kidney transplant list, why don't you try what we're doing? The worst thing that happens is nothing. Okay? But what if you're not on dialysis anymore after 90 days? You don't need the surgery. Well, I'd be real happy, but I'm skeptical. Well, give it a try. The worst thing that happens is it doesn't work. Not going to hurt you. You go do the surgery first. They can kill you during the surgery, give you an infection, and kill you. Okay, so you might want to try the non-surgical approach first. Now, I'll tell you a quick story, if I may, about a guy by the name of Tug up in New Brunswick, Canada, about 1,000 miles east of New York, in the maritime states up there. And he'd been on dialysis for 73 years, Brother Ron. He'd been on dialysis. He was 87 years old. He had not urinated since he was 14 years old.
Wow.
We put him on our program for dialysis, and in 2 weeks' time, he's urinating after 73 years, not urinating. He was on dialysis 6 days a week for 73 years. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday for 73 years. And in 2 months' time, he's off of dialysis.
Wow.
We do thousands of times a year getting people off of dialysis, getting them off the kidney transplant list, getting them off their medication for diabetes, getting them off their medication for high blood pressure, getting them off their pain medication for arthritis, getting them off the joint replacement list very quickly, usually 90 days, and regrow everything. It's very simple stuff. And again, it's based on drop-dead science. We've been doing it for 36 years and it never fails.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm just curious. I know you talked about Theo Radcliffe, how y'all really extended his career, and now he has a product called Rebound with you all. I'm just curious, could y'all possibly help, somebody like former Baylor basketball player, Isaiah Austin, who has Marfan syndrome, who could not, prolong his...
Marfan.
Mm-hmm.
And Marfan syndrome is not genetic, as doctors will tell you. And, of course, it's primarily found in tall people, and it has to do with their arteries. They get aneurysms and so forth. And that's what causes sudden death. That's what they said that Ronaldo Pierce had. They said, she got Marfan's disease, and her death was destined because of a genetic disease. That's absolutely insane, absurd, a lie. It's a simple deficiency of a mineral. And, I can help him, absolutely. So we can make the connection. We'll get him playing basketball again.
Oh, wow. So you can guarantee him that y'all can cure his Marfan.
Oh, Marfan is easily reversed. We can support and promote maintenance and repair of his arteries. I have billionaires who had inoperable aortic aneurysms, 7 centimeters in diameter. We're talking 3 inches in diameter. Inoperable. And there was nothing the medical system could do for them. And just in 3 months' time, using our 90 essential nutrients, 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, 3 essential fatty acids, we rebuilt his arteries, his aorta, and he had 98% blockage in his coronary arteries from coronary artery disease. And in a year's time, his arteries were 100% open, and in just 3 months' time, his aneurysm was gone, just using nutrition.
Well, actually, I was curious. I know I'm a sports fan and whatnot. I mean, did Magic Johnson, that's what he did, the curious quote-unquote HIV? He just used 90 essential nutrients? Did they help him get rid of HIV?
Let me say it this way.
Okay.
In the book, Epigenetics, it tells the story about HIV and how it came along and what you can do to arrest it, okay? You can't use a cure word for something like HIV.
Okay.
Okay, but you can use it. I can say, look, I can prevent HIV from mutating into AIDS. You look at two great black athletes, Arthur Ashe, a tennis player, and Magic Johnson, great basketball player. They both had HIV. Arthur Ashe died of a horrible death from AIDS. And you look at Magic Johnson now, years and years and years later, he's a very, very happy, healthy guy. And I can't claim what he's used, but I can tell you, he's not healthy and a successful businessman because of drugs. It's sort of a sideways answer, but that's the answer.
Wow. So also, I mean, could somebody like Lou Gehrig have benefited from this? The guy they got Lou Gehrig's disease, he had benefited from.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, there's all these diseases that are sort of cousin disease, like Lou Gehrig's disease, A.L.L, MS, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and even Huntington's disease, all of which are thought to be genetic, are really just a combination of nutritional deficiency disease and free radical damage to the brain. And these are ones we go through in the book Epigenetic and show you what causes each one, why they're related, dementias, and there's no reason that a person can't have something like Lou Gehrig's disease and Alzheimer's disease at the same time. Okay, you can have vascular dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and Lou Gehrig's disease. I see all combinations, and the reason why we're so successful, Brother Ron, is nutritionally, we treat everybody for all these diseases at the same time, so that we don't miss. If we go by the diagnosis of the doctor, we're going to miss it sometimes because they're wrong 65% of the time. I'll tell you about another black fella, Ray McGregor from North Carolina. He was diagnosed when he was 54 years old as having Alzheimer's disease. And his sister didn't want to believe it. She said, he's only 54 years old. Nobody gets Alzheimer's disease at 54. Well, this is many years ago. And so she took him to other great, well-respected neurological clinics in North Carolina. They all agreed he had very rapid, very vicious Alzheimer's disease. By the time I heard of him, I'd never met him. By the time I heard of him, he was already in a nursing home, and his sister was prepared to take a 6-month leave of absence to care for him as he died. She didn't want to lose him. She was going to do everything she could personally, including take a 6-month leave of absence from her job. Well, to make a long story short, we gave him the 90 essential nutrients, made him eat 6 eggs twice a day, 12 eggs a day. Now, he couldn't do this, so she had to mix all this stuff up, mix it with milk, put it through his G-tube, plus all the eggs, rebuild his brain. And in 1 week's time, now this is a true gospel story, Brother Ron. In 1 week's time, he gets up out of his fetal position, totally unconscious, gets up, gets dressed, walks out of that nursing home perfectly normal. Because we treated him nutritionally for all 5 dementias. We didn't just treat him for Alzheimer's disease, we treated him for all 5. Vascular dementia, Korsakoff syndrome, Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, B12 deficiency dementia, and Alzheimer's disease. Well, it turns out he did not have Alzheimer's disease because it takes much longer, maybe 6 months, 4 to 6 months to reverse that. Well, Korsakoff syndrome is reversible in a week because it's a deficiency of a single vitamin. And we learned that in 1772. It was discovered by a Japanese naval surgeon in 1772, Brother Ron, 300 years ago.
Wow.
And doctors don't use it because there's no money in it. And so I gave him 28,000 times the minimum daily requirement of that one vitamin, along with all the other stuff for the 5 different dementias.
Oh, man, you just blowing my mind with this information. A lot of people have got their mind blown as well. There's just a lot to really absorb. And I'm a sports fan, but also, I think about the fact that you was able to help Andy Young and Evander Holyfield and Nelson Mandela. There's one person I would just say, why hasn't he tried you? It would be the greatest, Muhammad Ali. Has anybody reached out to you from his camp to get some of this stuff?
If you can connect me with Muhammad Ali, I can help him. I can help him, but see, getting through to him is almost impossible. So if you have any connections with him, I can help Muhammad Ali. He's one of my heroes.
I mean, it's like you just know the right people. It's like you're only like 6 degrees away from getting connected to Muhammad Ali, and you can reverse what he has. I mean, it'll be very impressive, but it just boggles my mind that folks like Steve Jobs and other folks that got the resources, they'll try everything else but somebody like you and what you're offering. At one point, what you got to lose? Yeah, went to the best doctor.
They went to the best doctor for the month.
Mm.
Yeah, they went to the best doctors that money could buy, and that was the problem.
Mm. Wow. So I just want to make sure we're taking calls, everybody. Feel free to call in. Got questions for the good doctor here. He's available for the next, for this hour. We got a lot of things we want to cover, and we got a caller. We're going to go to the phone line. Area code 347, y'all on the air. Welcome to We All Be. What's your name?
Brother Leroy, thank you for the guest.
This is Brother Leroy Baylor. This is Brother Leroy Baylor, right?
Yes, sir.
Hey, tell us who you are, man. Tell us who you represent. This is an honor. Go ahead, Brother Leroy.
No, I'm just a humble brother.
Yeah, you're a humble brother, but you're doing some great things up in New York City, up in Harlem in particular. You got a show that you do the Communicators, right, on Sundays? You can call it out.
Right. Yeah, Sundays, www.whcr.org, and that's Sundays, 1 o'clock New York time.
Yes, sir. So if you can also listen online.
Well, let me ask this question because I'm calling as a caller. That's what.
Yes, sir.
When we talk about glaucoma, when you talk about rebuilding cartilage, you mentioned the rebound, the products that you make. What I need to know as a consumer is not so much the product, but what is the protocol for rebuilding the cartilage that you follow, and for the cartilage and the glaucoma.
Okay, let's go with the cartilage first because that's a basic program. The basic program is the 90 essential nutrients. We call it the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack. This would cover osteopenia, osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, degenerative arthritis, bone-to-bone arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, lupus, disc problems, things like peripheral neuropathies, sciatica, restless leg syndrome, atrial fibrillation, irritable bladder syndrome, all the things that are peripheral neuropathies. And what we do is we give your body the raw materials for it to maintain and repair itself. 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, 3 essential fatty acids. And then we always have extra stuff, extra of whatever's missing. And so what we do is we just give more of the stuff that will particularly deal with the problem you have. But everybody needs the 90. If you just take the secret sauce, so to speak, the stuff that's missing that results in this particular disease, you're not going to get a real good result because you still don't have the basic 90 essential nutrients. It's kind of like if you're not using oxygen, you can give the best thing in the world to you, but if you don't have oxygen for 4 minutes, you're dead. You're brain dead. Okay, so you still need oxygen, even though that might not be the cause of your iron deficiency anemia. Okay, so you still need to take iron, you still need to take copper and all the other stuff that are required to make iron work properly. And so we just came up with a basic program, the 90 essential nutrients. We call the Healthy Start Pack. It has the 90 essential nutrients, 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids. You take one of those per 100 pounds of body weight to make sure that your body has everything it needs for every normal reaction in your body to support and promote healthy genes, DNA, and RNA, all their function, maximize their potential for health and longevity and repair. And then we throw in extra of the stuff that's required to particularly, and I can again say legally, support and promote maintenance repair of the part that's not doing well. In this case, cartilage is easily regrown in 60 to 90 days. We've been doing this for 36 years. It never fails, never fails. And so we can do this with any athlete, whether it's their shoulder, their rotator cuff, their knees, their meniscus. I have people who have smashed up meniscus. The orthopedic surgeons will surgically remove them, and I regrow them, even though they've surgically removed them. And so these are possible. Now, glaucoma is caused by obstruction of the small arteries, microscopic arteries in the eye, driving the blood pressure up, or the pressure in the eye up. Of course, they have drops that they put in their eyes to dilate those arteries and thus reduce the pressure in the eye. What we do, we give the same Healthy Start Pack, that basic 90 essential nutrients, the 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, 3 essential fatty acids, Then we throw in a program we call Ultimate Dailies, and these are designed to support and promote healthy blood flow through obstructed arteries. They dilate the arteries, and even though those arteries are obstructed, they're dilated enough to get increased blood flow through them. And over time, weeks and months, the blood pressure and the pressure in the eye goes down, and they're able to reduce, based on the numbers, by actually going in and get the pressure in the eye tested, they can slowly reduce the number of drops they require to keep the pressure down in their eyes. And you want to only reduce those drops when you have glaucoma. Only reduce those drops by the numbers as you go, say, every 2 weeks or every week, whatever it might be, to the eye doctor and have that pressure registered. And the doctor's going to raise his eyebrows and say, I don't know why, but your pressure in your eyes is going down, so we can cut you down from 8 drops a day to 6 drops a day. And you go back in another couple of weeks and say, well, I don't know why your pressure's going down, but we can drop that from 6 drops a day down to 4 drops a day and so on. And you do it by the numbers, and that way you protect your eye from any possible injury. And we do this all the time. Glaucoma and macular degeneration are very, very commonly reversed. And again, we have the CD called Seeing is Believing, and this is the apology from the doctor that called me a liar, said it couldn't be done. Mm. And we sell millions of those a year because it's so fascinating. People can't believe, they're so skeptical that I'm blind from macular degeneration for 6 years. My vision is so blurry because I've had glaucoma for 6 years. Can you help me? Yeah, we can.
Wow, that's amazing. I want to thank Brother Leroy for that great question. And we got go ahead, Brother Leroy.
Ron, Doc, just playing it back to you, very clear. So I'm playing it back. What your protocol is per the ailment. We'll say the ailment is to give the body the fuel it needs to do the work of rebuilding and to rebuild what needs to be rebuilt.
That's exactly right. What we do is we give the body the building blocks and the mortar that's needed to put everything together and hold it together. The body has the capacity to do that. I mean, you think about it. When you fertilize the egg with the sperm, those two cells together wind up making a full human being. I mean, it's crazy that this is able to happen. And so all we do is we give the body the raw materials to do it again and again and again. You look at a chick and an egg. When the sperm fertilizes the egg and a chick and an egg, that chick is the size of a zero on a printed page. And in exactly 21 days, there's a chick formed inside that egg from just the food inside that egg, which is perfect. The egg is a perfect food. That chick has a digestive tract, a heart that's beating, and lungs and brain and eyes, liver and kidneys and muscles and bones and cartilage. All that comes from those two cells and all that nutrition in that egg. Well, your body can still do that even as an adult if you give it the right nutrition. Now, here's a question nobody ever asked. Why was it that our grandma and grandpa got that stuff way back when and we don't get it now? Well, here's why. Back when I was a kid 75 years ago, we didn't have electricity. We lived way out in the boonies. We didn't have electricity until I was 9 years old. And so we heated our house, we cooked our food, we heated our bath water, and we lit our house with wood. We burned wood. And there was a powder left in that stove every morning called wood ashes, which are really not wood ashes, they're the minerals that are left. We throw those minerals, a.k.a. wood ashes, out in the garden, and the corn and the peas and beans and squash, and the pumpkins and the bell peppers and the okra and the tomatoes and sweet potatoes and onions would suck up all those minerals. We ate that food. We got our nutritional minerals in that fashion. Well, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, because we know the exact moment, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, on Pearl Street in New York City, on the bluff overlooking the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge, Thomas Edison pulled the switch on the first commercial electric generating plant. Then 10 years, every industrialized nation converted from wood as a universal fuel to electricity. And at that time, how many wood ashes are left over every morning when you fuel your house with electricity? None. And what then did we replace our traditional source of minerals, which you've been using for thousands and thousands and thousands of years? What did we replace those wood ashes with as a source of minerals? Nothing. And so now we're suffering from lack of these minerals because we're not getting wood ashes anymore. Our fields are depleted because we stopped the flooding. And the flooding each year would leave silt in the field as the water would recede. And the silt was minerals from mountains hundreds of miles away. We plow that into the field and plant our food. And so we had mineral renewal in the soil every year from flooding. We threw the wood ashes into the gardens. We don't do any of that anymore. And that's why we have to supplement. We have to make up what our grandparents got through flooding, naturally, and from wood ashes going into the garden, naturally. And so we must supplement, otherwise we're in trouble.
And the offer that you made just 10 minutes ago for your product?
Well, the offer I made is this. If people call us on this toll-free number, 1-855-316-8326, or call Kelly Herron, 901-834-7420, we will put them in our system as a wholesale buyer. They won't pay retail. They'll get their 30 to 40% discount. And if they want to do this as a income earner and help other people and become a student of this information, help other people, you do this with a one-time $10 fee. And the more people you help, the bigger your check gets, right? And if you want to really get car bonuses and stock options and all that kind of stuff because they're publicly traded, you buy a one-time $500, what they call a mega CEO pack, and you get $500 worth of product. It's not like we're taking $500 from you. You get $500 worth of product. You'll be eligible for these car bonuses, and you can get up to $1,000 a month in car bonuses. You get stock options every time you come to a new ranking. And these are willable. These businesses are willable, so if something happens to you, this can go to your family. It's not like you're a job. You can't will your job to somebody else.
Right.
And here's the beauty of this system, gentlemen, and that is when you do this system, even the $10 business, a one-time fee, you get a $10 business with longevity, you get the same tax breaks as Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, and all the billionaires. We don't want to take away their tax benefits. We want to get the tax benefits. And for a one-time $10 fee, you get all the same tax benefits. If you're working and they're withholding taxes, you can get back most or all of that withholdings by working your longevity business and getting all those legitimate tax breaks, which you can find out on one of those turbo tax things, or you can get the little tax books, and they'll teach you how to save your tax records and so forth, your receipts, and you can actually deduct your home office, you can deduct a percentage of your utilities, a percentage of your homeowners or renters insurance, and you can get most of or all of your, depending on how hard you work in your business, you can get most of or all of your withholdings back. I mean, that's pretty good for a one-time $10 fee to get back thousands of dollars every year.
Right. Repeat those numbers again. Yes.
1-855, that's toll-free, 1-855-316-8326. And then Kelly Herron's number is 901-834-7420. And I'll throw in another one here for you, Brother Ron.
Okay.
Even if somebody's a customer, they can't afford the $10. Even if somebody's a customer, okay, just the preferred customer, they're buying wholesale, not retail. They're buying wholesale. It costs them nothing to become a preferred customer. Just tell us they heard this on the Brother Ron Hurd show. If they get 3 other people going on this program and they get them on the Healthy Start Pack, just the simplest, most economical of all the packs, the beginning pack, 3 Healthy Start Packs in a month, we'll give them 1 free. How's that?
All right, I heard it on WeHealthy Radio. This will be archived. It will be out there. Dr. Wallach, you offered, you shouldn't be able to refuse. That's all.
To help America.
Yes. And I also want to say, if you are in the Memphis area, you get a chance to meet Dr. Wallach. He'll be holding church, and Sunday, July 20th, that'll be 2 p.m. Central Time at the Cordova Country Club, which is located at 7400 Cordova Club Drive, East Cordova, Tennessee, 38018. Once again, if you are in the Memphis, Tennessee area, because Cordova is just a suburb of Memphis, Sunday, July 20th at 2 p.m. Central, Dr. Joel Wallach will be in the house to break down the science of what he is doing. Now he's trying to help to empower everybody at the Cordova Country Club, 7400 Cordova Club Drive, East Cordova, Tennessee, 38018. And Sister Kelly Herron is the contact person for that as well. You can reach her at area code 901-834-7420. Once again, Kelly Herron is the contact person. She can be reached at area code 901-834-7420. And this is a free health seminar. And I must say, good doctor, I know it's late where you at. It's almost midnight. But you sound like a man that's in his 30s or early 40s. You don't sound like a guy who's almost 80 years old. And you actually do 300 of these lectures every year, correct?
That's correct.
In addition to radio shows.
Brother.
Say it again, good doctor.
I do 2 hours of radio every day plus 300 lectures. And we're going to put a third hour of radio on, I think, starting next month. We do 3 hours a day of radio, Monday through Friday. A lecture 300 nights a year. Some days, and some Saturdays we do 3. We'll do one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one at night. And we get some of the bigger cities. We don't have enough room. You get 1,000 people in a room. You have to spread it out throughout the day. And we love working with church families. We love working with individuals. We love working with businesses for the benefit of their employees. We love working with families. And again, my goal is to make sure that our kids outlive us. I just can't stand the prospect, like the experts say, of our kids not living as long as us. I can't think of a more horrible thing than have to bury your children. And so the goal here is to save not only ourselves, but to save our kids, save our future, save America. We can do this if we just take care of ourselves and not rely on the medical system. We have chosen poorly. We bet on the wrong horse. And the medical doctors, because there's insurance, they've got themselves into the position where they're a protected monopoly. They're self-policing. They have no oversight by anybody. Even the insurance companies that pay all the bills don't check their records.
Wow.
Here's a figure for you. Brother Ron, you heard of Bernie Madoff, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's the guy that defrauded his investors of $3 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in jail for life plus 150 years. That guy is never getting out of jail.
Right.
He defrauded his investors $3 billion. Well, every year in America, Brother Ron, medical doctors defraud their patients of $750 billion. This is a front-page news story in September of 2012. Medical doctors defraud their patients of $750 billion. That's one-third of our annual medical budget every year. And how do they do that? They do that by billing the insurance companies, billing the patient for fraudulent stuff that they didn't do and for procedures that they didn't do, or procedures they did do that the patient didn't even need. $750 billion, 30 cents out of every dollar that they bill insurance companies for. And I challenge any medical doctor out there to call in and say it's not true, because I have the records from the Institute of Medicine. The Institute of Medicine is their guys. And they're the ones that came up with this figure. The medical doctors in America defraud their patients of $750 billion every year by billing them for things they didn't do and doing things and billing them for things they didn't need.
Wow. Just
so they can pay the tuition for kids to go to college. You notice you never heard of any doctor losing his house during the big crash during 2008. No doctors had their cars towed away. So they could bill their patients for things they didn't do and never had to pay it back. It's not like they had to borrow money from a bank.
Wow, this is just mind-numbing. You said $750 billion every year.
$750 billion.
Wow. That's incredible.
It's a yearly figure, right?
Wow. Hey, I want to, wow. Doctor, you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yeah, I want to ask you also, because, the government, we call them the alphabet boys. You got the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and all those boys. But you actually took on one of the alphabet boys, the FDA, and you took them all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, correct?
I actually sued the FDA 8 times in the federal courts.
Mm-hmm.
One time appealed, and I beat them in the appellate court. And then they signed off. We were ready to go. We were there, ready to go, and they signed off on the steps of the Supreme Court because they didn't want a Supreme Court ruling. And it saved me $1 million because it comes out of my own pocket. So I didn't want to spend the $1 million if I didn't have to. But we would have beat them again in the Supreme Court. They knew that. That's why they signed off on the steps of the Supreme Court. The other lawsuits were won in the federal court, and we prevailed. It's things like making sure that there's a folic acid in prenatal vitamins to prevent spina bifida in babies, to make sure that people know that by supplementing with the omega-3 essential fatty acids, they can prevent stroke, they can prevent coronary thrombosis and heart attack from a blood clot in an artery. They can prevent cancer by supplementing with selenium. These are things we've known in animals for 100 years. Millions and millions, billions of dollars worth of research on this stuff in animals. And so being a veterinarian and a primary care physician, I took this information from animals, I used it on people. My patients, because they would see my veterinary degree on the wall with my medical degree. And my patients would see the fact that I was a veterinarian as well as a naturopathic physician, primary care physician in Oregon and California. And they say, Dr. Wallach treats us like dogs, but we get better. So he's using all this veterinary nutrition to get rid of their diseases, and they thought that was kind of cute that I treat them like dogs, but they got better.
But also, I would say you treat yourself like a dog or a lab rat because you use your own supply, right? They say in the drug business world, never get high off your own supply, but you use your supply, correct? You use your own product.
Oh, yes, sir. I take the 90 essential nutrients twice a day. I've been doing it twice a day, Brother Ron, for 68 years.
Wow.
Been taking the 90 essential nutrients twice a day for 68 years. Never fail. I never fail. I carry 3 suitcases with me on the airplane. If I'm only going to be gone from home for a couple of weeks, I carry 3 suitcases that weigh 70 pounds each that has a 3-month supply of all my supplements. People say, why are you taking a 3 months? You're only going to be gone for 4 weeks. Well, what if all the planes are grounded for a month because of weather or a volcano erupting or there's civil unrest or there's an invasion by space people? Who knows? And so I'm kind of covering myself in case of any eventuality. It's so important to me that I'm just not going to risk being without my stuff.
Let me ask you this. Speaking of your stuff, and like they always say biblically that a prophet is always without honor in their country and among their family and friends. From a biblical viewpoint, how has your family received this information? Are any of your family members on board with you, with what you've been doing?
Oh, absolutely. I have 4 children, and my oldest son, who's the middle child, Steve, he's actually the CEO of the company, and he helped me bring it up from just a garage business up to where it's a publicly traded company. We're international. We do business in 50 countries. And then I have my youngest son who's in the shipping department, Jeremiah. He's in the shipping department. I have 2 daughters, the oldest of my 4 children, who are distributors from the very beginning, and they do a lot of teaching out there in the field, and they help thousands of people every month. And then, of course, my grandkids, they all take the stuff. They were taking the 96 nutrients before they were conceived, all through the pregnancies they were developed in. So none of my kids, none of my grandkids, none of my great-grandkids have any problems. You can imagine a family like that, an extended family of 4 children, 8 grandkids, and great-grandkids, and none of them have ever been sick. Nobody's born with any birth defects of any kind, no ADD, no ADHD, no autism, no cleft palate, no Down syndrome, no missing fingers or toes, none of that kind, no heart defects. It's just all perfect because they were given the nutrients before they were conceived and all through the pregnancy they're developed in from the moment they're born. If we do that for all of our children, we can make America the greatest country in the world again. We're going to have to be obsessive about this, Brother Ron. We can't leave it to chance. And again, the reason why we're in trouble is we're not putting wood ashes in our garden anymore. We're not letting our fields flood anymore, and so we have to consciously make up the difference by supplementing. Just using your grandma's recipe doesn't work anymore because her tomatoes had more minerals in it because of the flooding and the wood ashes than our tomatoes have. So we must supplement to make up the difference.
What about it? And speaking of that, and also everybody, we're still taking phone calls. I know some people have been waiting there. Please feel free to call back in. The area code 646-652-4593. Even folks that, might think that their question might not be something worth asking. There's no such thing as a stupid question, right, Doc? Just, uninformed people, correct?
Yeah, well, people should feel free to ask. When I give my lectures, Brother Ron, I have anywhere, depending on how many people there, anywhere from a half hour to an hour question and answer period, because I'm just sort of hitting the tips of the edges there, the basic concepts. And people have specific questions about their back and their knees and their hips and their shoulders and their eyes, their digestion, their heart, their lungs, their kidneys, their livers. And we can help them. Again, this is billions of dollars worth of research. And as crazy as it sounds, this stuff never fails. I've had people who, for instance, had what's called primary sclerosing cholangitis. This is a liver disease that Walter Payton, the great running back for the Chicago Bears, died from, waiting for a liver transplant. I take people whose liver is the size of an Oreo cookie, and in 90 days regrow that to where it's a 6-pound normal liver, and they were on the liver transplant list. An enormous number of drugs, very ill, and they probably were going to die before they got a liver transplant, just like Walter Payton. So they were giving the livers to the people who were healthier. They didn't want to, waste the liver on somebody who was going to die anyway. And in just 90 days, we were able to rebuild their livers back to a normal 6-pound liver. And so these are the things that your body can do given the right raw materials. It's kind of amazing to me that, well, I guess it's not, but when you understand doctors, how they work, and that is they treat people because that's how they make their money. They're not really interested in a cure. They're not really interested in a cure. And I hate to say that, but it's true. Because I've been publishing. I did my due diligence. I published 75 scientific papers. I published scientific books, Brother Ron, that are in the Smithsonian Institute as national treasures. In fact, I started to say this before, and I got distracted. When those books sold, when that one book, that first big one, 1,200 pages in the Smithsonian Institute, it was sold for $140, 1983, which is an enormous amount of money for a textbook back then. Back then, textbooks were like $40. Just sold for $140. They sold out 10,000 copies in months, very quickly. Well, today, if you can find one of those books on the used book sales, it's all beat up and coffee on it and dog-eared and underlined and highlighted. You might get one for $1,200.
Wow.
You get one that's still wrapped up in cellophane, never been opened. They run for $10,000 to $12,000, Brother Ron. Now, I don't get any of that money. That's one person selling their book, their grandpa's book, to the general public. What's amazing to me is the scientific community is so interested in that information that they're willing to pay $10,000 for a book for it. There's not many antique books sell for that much. Okay, and this is because of all the scientific information there. How many people out there have ever done 20,000 autopsies and 10 million chemistries and published it all in a book that's in the Smithsonian Institute as National Treasure? That information is worth that amount of money, because to redo that study, Brother Ron, is going to cost billions. The original study cost $25 million, which we thought was a lot of money. That's chump change now compared to all the government spending.
Well, it's just, man, there's so many things I want to ask you. I know some of these things might be controversial. People, Brother Ron, because a lot of folks are listening, and people are in the chat room. People are listening throughout the whole country. We've got a cross-section of people listening throughout the country, and people online. We even got people, long-time listeners from England, and they're listening online. So I just want to ask you these questions. I think it's very important for me, because I think about Monsanto. I'm thinking about the stuff that you're doing, and you're pretty much like an unsung, you're out there in the wilderness, really, still. You've been doing this for a long, long time, and you have been getting the results, and you got the testimonials. But I think about companies like Monsanto, who can create a tomato and put fish DNA in a tomato to keep it from spoiling. And you talking about how our ancestors or our grandma and all them grew up on the farms and stuff with the wood, ashes, and whatnot, with all the nutrients. But now you got companies like Monsanto with a powerful lobby group on the Hill, basically directing legislation when it comes to our food. So do you really think that what you're doing can actually overcome some of the things that our government is okaying in our food that is killing us?
Yeah, well, here's the problem. A farmer, when he sells his tomatoes, he's not really worried about the nutrition in that food. Okay? What he's interested in is tons and bushels. He's interested in volume and weight, tons and bushels, because that's how he gets paid. He does not get paid by how many nutrients is in that tomato. Now, he knows that for himself, because that same field that he's growing your tomatoes in that don't have the nutrition that your grandma's tomato hit because she was throwing the wood ashes out there, he knows to give his livestock these minerals because there's no insurance for animals. There's no health insurance for animals. If he has to call his veterinarian out there to treat his breeding bull for arthritis of the hips, or congestive heart failure, or liver cirrhosis, or kidney failure, he's not going to do that. He's not going to spend $100,000 taking care of that bull. He'll just eat the bull and get him another one for $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, human beings, we can't do. And so we got insurance, and doctors have learned how to use an ATM machine to get to your insurance. And, of course, again, Monsanto is providing a service for the farmers by increasing his yield from, say, 100 bushels of tomatoes per acre to 200 bushels per acre. And we can do the same thing with nutrition. We work a lot with the Amish communities who are small farmers, subsistence farmers, and we can actually grow 10, 12, 15-pound sweet potatoes, which will quadruple the yield in a single field. Where normally a sweet potato is maybe a quarter of a pound, we can grow in that same field a sweet potato that's 12 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
By giving them the 77 minerals, which we're getting in our program, the 90 essential nutrients. And not only that, but the sweet potato has more minerals in it. It's more nutritious. And so the Amish community's been, they sell a lot of organic foods that they grow. They've been using our system we call Bloomin' Minerals, which is in 40-pound bags of this granular material that we get our minerals from. Looks like coffee grounds. It's all natural. There's nothing chemistry about it. It's all natural. And they're able to use this on their fields and increase their yields enormously. Now, they also get chickens that lay 3 eggs a day instead of 3 a week by giving them these minerals in their food. For little chicks, they give them the minerals in their drinking water, and they'll get a 6-pound chicken by adding these minerals in the same time, the same amount of feed that they do with a 6-pound chicken. If they don't give them these minerals, they'll be a 3-pound chicken in the same period of time. So they double the amount of meat production of those chickens in the same period of time from the same amount of food just by adding a few pennies worth of these minerals into their food. And so these are the things we're doing to make food better. And it's all natural. It's all nutrition rather than chemistry.
Wow. And I also want to ask you this, because I know you know about this story about the UC Berkeley biologist Tyrone Hayes, how he said he was targeted by the herbicide firm Syngenta for some of his discoveries that he claimed. He said that atrazine, the herbicide or pesticide they was using, was changing the sexuality of frogs. And do you feel like the food that we're eating, can food, in your opinion, affect our sexuality?
Well, there's no doubt. You see, these are birth defects when you have 3-legged frogs and frogs without legs and that sort of stuff. These are birth defects. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that thalidomide stuff, which was used as a tranquilizer for women. They, had depression or during their early pregnancy, and they take thalidomide, and the babies were born without arms and legs. Same principle for those frogs, because it interferes with the ability of your genes, your DNA and RNA to get the nutrients they need to function properly. It stops that process. And so that's what happens when you use these herbicides and pesticides. Same thing happened with DDT and pelican eggs, and that's how we discovered the DDT was bad for us because it was causing the brown pelicans to break all their eggs because they couldn't make the shells on the eggs properly. The DDT interfered with that. The same thing is true with these chemicals. They interfere with pregnancy. There's no doubt about it. And so thalidomide was one that was literally thousands of babies in America were born without arms and legs, and they couldn't even sell it. The FDA had heard about that in Europe that this was happening, and in Australia, New Zealand, in Germany. And so they said, we're not going to approve it for sale in America, but they let them give it away as samples. So they gave it to tens of thousands of American women and caused their babies to be born without arms and legs. They never had to pay for it, but they got the injury for nothing.
Wow, I mean, it's stuff that people need to know. I just think that it's really to our detriment that we trust these organizations and institutions that do not really inform us about what's going on with our environment and with our food supply and with ourselves. I think it's really a fool's errand to really put all this faith and trust in these institutions and organizations. We have not earned anything based on their track record when it comes to the people.
Oh, absolutely right. Absolutely right. This is exactly true. And, of course, this is where the book Epigenetics gives you all the history. This gives you all the history of the background, all these things that have happened in history. Epigenetics, the death of the genetic theory of disease transmission. They're going to get the history of all this. They will understand how this all happened starting thousands of years ago with the Egyptians, all through the Second World War and Hitler, all to the doctors here in America following the Second World War, and all the terrible experiments they've done on Americans. It's just horrible. And so we bet on the wrong horse when we bet on the medical community.
And I want to ask you this. We got a caller. We're going to go right to that caller. But I want to ask you this as well. So we talk a lot about medical doctors, but sometimes we think of medical doctors. I don't normally think of really dentists like I should. And I want to ask you about, dentistry, because I think a lot of people, they talk about, can you reverse gum disease? I mean, is it possible to reverse gum disease or gingivitis or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Simple thing, gum disease, receding gums, is actually caused by osteoporosis of the face. People forget your skull and your jaw are just bones like your vertebrae in your back and your knees and your hips and your leg bones, your arm bones, your ribs. And we all know they get osteoporosis and you lose minerals and you shrink and you get bent over and you fracture. The same thing happens to all the bones in your skull and your jaw. Well, when the bones go away in your face, and you notice this in older people, Brother Ron, that older people, their face kind of shrinks up and you can tell they're old just by looking at their face all shrinky.
Right.
And if you can just tell, that's how you tell how old people are, by looking at their face and they're all shrinking. What happens is as your bones are shrinking away, the gums have nothing to sit on, so they begin to recede. And because the bones are going away, your teeth get loose. And dentists then want to pull your teeth. They'll give you dentures. They will put in implants. But all you have to do is, you take the 90 essential nutrients, the 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, 3 essential fatty acids, appropriate, and we call ours the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, appropriate for body weight. And these raw materials will support and promote maintenance and repair of the bones in your skull, your ribs, your vertebrae, your long bones, your legs and arms, and it'll tighten up your teeth like you're putting cement around a fence post. You can do this yourself, very simply, with these 90 essential nutrients.
So when you
in most cases, you don't need.
Okay.
Yeah, in most cases, you don't need to have your teeth pulled and dentures made. You can do this all yourself with the 90 essential nutrients.
Wow. So you telling me that it's not necessary for you to floss out to every meal or brush twice a day? Just take the 90 essential nutrients from your program?
Well, it just depends on how social you want to be. If you don't brush your teeth every day and floss your teeth, you're going to get a smelly breath or the decomposition of the food between your teeth, right? But flossing will not prevent receding gums. Flossing will not prevent periodontal disease and loss of bone in your face and jaw. That is caused by nutritional deficiencies. Flossing just makes you more sociable, getting rid of the decomposing meat in between your teeth and making you smell bad.
But it won't save your teeth altogether. It won't save your teeth. Oh, stop.
I'm sorry, say again?
It won't save your teeth if you just floss alone. It can't save your teeth.
No, it will not save your teeth. It will not prevent gum loss by flossing your teeth. No, sir, it will not do that.
Oh, wow. So I'm glad to hear that. Okay. I'm not glad to hear that, but I'm thankful for the information, and people can listen to that. And we're going to go back to 347 back on the air.
Yes, cirrhosis of the liver, that's one. And the other one is that if you have a fireplace and you burn logs and that wood in your fireplace, are those ashes valuable in terms of the wood ash that you explained?
Absolutely. You have wood ashes from your fireplace, as long as you're not burning plastic and trash and that kind of stuff in there, which is a pollutant. If you're just burning wood in your fireplace, you can take those ashes and put them in your garden, whether it's for your roses or your cabbage, either one, doesn't matter. And you don't know, though, does that tree have 3 minerals in it, 10, 12, 25, 40? You don't know how many minerals are in there. But whatever's in there will be very, very good, because the tree only needs 3, as you can tell. if it's, going to have 3 or 6 or 8 or 10 or 20. But whatever's in that tree is good. Okay? Now, cirrhosis of the liver is 99% of the time is not caused by alcohol. 99% of the people who have cirrhosis of the liver, which includes several different diseases like fatty liver, primary sclerosing cholangitis, and various degrees of liver cirrhosis, these things are all caused totally by nutritional deficiencies. Primarily a singular mineral, and of course you take the 90 essential nutrients appropriate for body weight, you take a little bit of extra of that mineral, your liver's going to be healthy and happy and regrow, just like this gal up in Boston who had primary sclerosing cholangitis. Her liver's the size of an Oreo cookie. She had 12 operations cutting her liver apart and putting in stents in her liver over a 12-year period. And in just a couple of months' time, we were able to rebuild her liver to a normal 6-pound liver by giving her the nutrients so her liver can rebuild itself. Drugs and surgery cannot rebuild tissue. That's why so many athletes will get tendon surgeries and they'll get it ruptured again. They'll get knee surgery, they'll rupture it again. That's because they need the nutrition to rebuild it and maintain it. And this is where the 90 essential nutrients, the Healthy Start Pack, the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, the Healthy Blood Sugar Pack, the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, all these things. We got 8 different packs. We have the Weight Loss Pack. All of these things work by giving the DNA, the RNA, and the genes all the nutrients they need to maximize their potential for health, maintenance, and longevity. Just to have good genes, but Ron doesn't guarantee anything unless you're giving yourself all the raw materials to get that maximum potential.
But Doc, one last question. Tell us how it came that Evander Holyfield connected with you, and that, as Ron says earlier, implied earlier, that's extraordinary. You have so many who need the kind of help that you've explained. Ron Holyfield is the exception to the rule. So share with us that story.
Okay, well, across the street from him, Andrew Young had a house across the street from him, so they were essentially across the street neighbors. And I had already rebuilt Andy Young's knees. He had canceled his double knee replacement surgery. And he just brought, I told him what to give Evander Holyfield. He gave it to him, and his cardiomyopathy heart disease went away. But it's a simple deficiency of minerals. And, of course, the doctors wanted to give him a heart transplant and all that kind of stuff. Didn't need it. The same thing with Theo Ratliff in basketball. Same thing with Delisha Jones in basketball, lady basketball player. Same thing with the Harlem Globetrotters. There's always somebody who carries them that information, and they're needy enough where they say, well, the doctors can't help me here, or I don't want their help because they want to do a heart transplant. I'm not ready for that yet, and so I'm willing to try this. And when it works, they're just very grateful. And, of course, I go to Atlanta a lot, and I sit in the front row there at the church, the World Changers Church there with Pastor Creflo Dollar. There's Evander Holyfield on one side of me and Theo Ratliff on the other side of me. It's just such an honor to be there with all these great gentlemen.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brother Lee, for those questions. And also, I want to ask you, too, about Bo Jackson. I'm curious about Bo Jackson, and we had been better off just following your program versus getting those surgeries.
Yeah, well, we can help them. It's a matter of, be having to talk to them on the phone and give them a protocol. And, these sorts of things, the doctors say are genetic or just not. Most of them can be reversed. And it's one of those things where they just got to say, okay, I'm willing to try it for 90 days. Let me try it for 90 days. They have nothing to lose, everything to gain. And somebody's got to introduce us is what it comes down to, and they have to be willing to try it. Can't hurt them. There's got to be no risk of danger compared to what doctors might do to them.
I also want to ask you this, too, because I'm so interested in, everybody always talking about, it's like we're on perpetual campaign mode in this country, and everybody, as soon as 2012 was over, they talking about 2016, and they talking about Hillary Clinton running. I know she had some medical problems, and I also think about Barack Obama, how much he has, quote-unquote, age in office, And you talk about how graying is actually a copper deficiency, correct? When you gray, is because you lack enough copper in your system?
Well, yeah, Brother Ron, copper is a cofactor necessary to make melanin, which can be hair pigment, skin pigment. You see, anybody can get vitiligo, which is a lack of pigment. It's very dramatic in dark black people. In white people, Hispanic people, Oriental people, they also get vitiligo, but it's not so dramatic unless they're suntan. Because when they have vitiligo from lack of copper, then they'll have white, gray, or silver hair. And those are cosmetic things. It always worries me when somebody has white, gray, or silver hair because of a copper deficiency or a vitiligo because of a copper deficiency, because the same deficiency of copper will cause a breakdown the elastic fibers in blood vessels, veins, spider veins, varicose veins, hemorrhoids, which are varicose veins in a funny place, and artery disease in your brain. Get ruptured aneurysms of the brain, ruptured aneurysm of the aorta in your chest and belly, which can be life-threatening situations, and causing all kinds of terrible things all over the place. You get these aneurysms or even ruptured blood vessels in your kidneys, causing kidney failure and high blood pressure. But these things are all, copper, if you take it by itself, you're not going to be happy because it's not going to be a consistent, complete result because copper requires all kinds of cofactors to work properly. And so when you use the 90 essential nutrients, again, the Healthy Start Pack, 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, 3 essential fatty acids, you're getting optimal amounts of everything for 100 pounds of human flesh for a month. Then if you have a specific need, you want more copper, we have the system to give them more copper. If you need more sulfur and glucosamine, chondroitin sulfate, hyaluronic acid, those kind of things to rebuild cartilage and ligaments, we have the capacity to add that to the 90 essential nutrients. And it's very efficient when you put it all together. It's kind of like making your grandma's famous angel food cake recipe.
Right.
So you put everything in that cake except the 13 egg whites because you're nervous about eggs. Are you going to have an angel food cake? Not without 13 egg whites. So I always tell people, don't cherry pick the nutrient out of this formula. Use the entire formula. You're going to get a good result, a predictable result, and you'll be happy. If you just try to cherry pick a nutrient, one nutrient, the odds are you're not going to be happy.
You know what actually this company, we're such a celebrity-driven culture, and you talk about vitiligo. I think of one famous case will be Michael Jackson. And also you look at what happened to Michael Jackson, autopsy results were released. Your program could have helped Michael Jackson overcome some of the things he had to face health-wise.
Absolutely. We could have saved his life. And, of course, the reason why he was craving these drugs is because he was seriously minerally deficient, which produces vitiligo, which gave him many, many different health problems. Of course, he had white hair. That long, curly hair he had was a wig. That wasn't his hair.
Okay.
And, we could have saved him. It was really tragic. And when, he was on the road, he'd eat whole grains and everything, which he shouldn't have eaten because he had gluten intolerance. He'd come back, he'd get fed IVs, which had no gluten in it, and he's in those hyperbaric chambers. He'd recover very quickly. And then he started eating whole grains again, and he couldn't absorb nutrients. And that was his problem. He was being given and forced and driven to use whole grains when he had a gluten intolerance. And, I don't know if you remember this, or you may be too young, but everybody was saying that he was bleaching himself to look white. Well, he wasn't bleaching himself. You're right. He had vitiligo because he had terrible mineral deficiencies, and he had white hair because he had terrible mineral deficiencies. And he had cravings, which he tried to satisfy with drugs when he really should have just been taking minerals, and he'd still be alive today. He'd be a grandfather today if he would have just taken the minerals. And again, getting connections with really high-profile people is very difficult. But so anytime you have somebody, whether they're the most humble of people, or whether they're Hillary or President Obama, anybody out there, we'll be happy to help them. In fact, people coming back who are in the military, if they want to become a longevity associate and build a business, if they're a military veteran from the Iraq or Afghanistan wars, we'll pay for their $10 to be an associate. We'll pay them for nothing. And we will work with them and make sure they're successful, and they'll be able to continue helping other people. They'll be able to make a good living. either part-time doing this to support their income, they make from their job they might get, and they'll be healthier. Their brains will be healthier. Well, they won't commit suicide. They won't do violence. They won't have family or domestic violence, all that kind of stuff. They're going to come back as whole men and women. We can do this for our and so your listeners, our veterans who are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, if they want to do the longevity business as a business, help themselves and their families health-wise, and make a little bit of money to them, becoming a student and helping other people, I will personally pay their $10. How's that?
That sounds terrific. Once again, this will be archived and available. It'll be disseminated. So, Doctor, we got you on the record saying you will pay for veterans to get into your program. And I'm glad you brought that up because I heard recently that on average, 22 veterans commit suicide every day on average in this country. 22 veterans commit suicide every day. That's what they're saying.
That's right. And it's all because they're nutritionally deficient. Of course, doctors want to give them all these drugs. And the drugs are no nutrition for the brain. They're out there in the mountains sweating, carrying those 80-pound packs, eating MREs, meals ready to eat, which are primarily just carbohydrates. They were never meant to eat 3 times a day for 3 years. They're only meant to eat, during a battle when you can't go stand in line for a cooked meal, have your pockets full of those things, and you'd eat them to keep your calories up for a day when you're in a fight. But then after a while, you got to eat real food. These guys would just live on those MREs and drink soft drinks and come back. They're just totally nutritionally deficient in the brain, and that's what's going on here. We give them the nutrients. We make the brain happy. They're going to be good citizens. They'll live a long, healthy life, and we welcome them back, and we just want to work with them and do great things with our veterans.
I also want to ask you, because you touched on a great point, because the veterans are suffering from post-traumatic disorder. Is it possible that these essential nutrients could also reverse something like bipolar disorder or multiple personality disorder? Is that possible?
All of these types of diseases are caused by what psychologists and psychiatrists would call a chemical imbalance, right? Multiple personality disorder. They didn't have that all their life. They're perfectly normal until they're 30, 40 years old, and then suddenly all this stuff starts. Okay, it's not genetic. It's not that they're born with it. These things are simple nutritional deficiencies. Even serial killers and mass murderers, they're perfectly normal most of their life. And then suddenly things go haywire because their brain reacts funny when they're deficient in nutrients their brain requires. One of the simple ones that everybody knows is lithium, which doctors want you to think of as a drug, but really it's a mineral. It's one of the 60 essential minerals for the brain. And lithium can prevent and cure depression, manic depression, bipolar disease, many diseases, anxiety attacks, all that kind of stuff. And so that's why I'm such a nice guy, Brother Ron, because I take my 97 nutrients. I'm getting lots of lithium, not as a prescription drug, but as a natural mineral that comes with our supplements.
Okay, wow. And also, I want to ask you this as well, too, before we close. Time go by so fast. Giving so much good information. Will people be better off taking the essential nutrients versus exercising on a regular basis? Will folks be better off just taking the nutrients versus exercising?
Yeah, if you're talking about, let's say God said you have to have a choice here. Brother Ron, you can only do one thing. You can either exercise or take your supplements. I'd go for the supplements. Just remember that athletes live to be 62, except for football players who live to be 51. Couch potatoes live to be 70, 85.
Well, that makes sense. I guess it's common sense, but it's not too common because the way they treat us in terms of information dissemination. I just think it's very important that, with somebody like you, the fact that you have not faced any major lawsuits or whatnot, I know I looked at some of your skeptics and they say, well, how can you do so many autopsies? You say you did over 3,000, correct, human autopsies?
I've done more than that, but that was just one 10-year project. There's some days I was doing 25 autopsies a day. When it comes to some animals, for laboratory animals, you get a bushel basket full of rats or rabbits. I might do 50 a day.
Wow. And I also want to ask you, okay, and what has been your most surprising source of support, like in terms of people really believing in what you're doing or organizations? What has been the most surprising in your journey?
Most surprising positive thing?
Yes.
I think the most surprising positive thing is when Pastor Benny Hinn invited me to speak and be interviewed by him on his program. That was good. Benny Hinn's always been one of my heroes. I just love the way he communicates with people, and he's very insightful and just a great communicator. And when I learned that he wanted to interview me on his regular TV program, I was just so honored and so humbled. And he was such a great man. I just so enjoy him. And in fact, in 2 days, I'm going to be back in L.A. doing 7 more interviews with him.
Oh, wow. And
so I'm all excited that he has such a great response to our interviews that he wants to do it again and talk about other diseases we haven't talked about yet and talk about some of the wonderful things that have happened in his church. Because, again, once a pastor really does what's necessary to get his church family using these programs, the prayer list gets answered. Just think about it. People who've been on the prayer list for 30 years for diabetes, in 30 days it goes away. On the prayer list for 5 years, because they're on the heart transplant list, in a week they're off the heart transplant list. Because, if you're a religious person, Brother Ron, or somebody out there is a listener, the religious person, they believe, and rightfully so, that God made us in His image, and God doesn't have hemorrhoids, and God doesn't have heart disease, and God doesn't have receding gums, God doesn't have kidney failure, God doesn't have blood pressure problems. And so if we do everything right, we shouldn't either. And so that's why our body recovers so quickly when we take all these essential nutrients and stay away from the bad stuff, the fried foods and the processed meats and the oils and the gluten and stuff like that. We can add many, many healthy years to our life. I say better yet, many healthy years to our kids and our grandkids' lives. And so we're just so happy to get so many young people involved with longevity because they're going to have a long and healthful life and help so many people getting this information out. And that's why I chose this forum and format because I had to leverage my time and get the information out there. And I cannot tell you how much I thank you so much, Brother Ron, for allowing me to speak to you and your audience and get this information out there.
Well, good doctor, we thank you so much. It's very humbling. I think you spend it because, time is something that you cannot get a refund on. Once you spend your time in something, you can't get a refund back on it. I want to thank you taking the time to get the information out on our platform. In the words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you badly, and keep on producing and pushing. And I look forward to meeting you on Sunday. And if you are in the Memphis area, please come out Sunday, July 20th at 2 p.m. Central at the Cordova Country Club. Dr. Joel Wallach will be giving his seminar, and also there'll be products on hand to be sold and other information as well. Once again, that's Sunday, July 20th at 2 p.m. Central, Cordova Country Club, 7400 Cordova Club Drive East, Cordova, Tennessee, 38018. And someone at the artivist sent you, Brother Ron of We All Be Radio. And we'll be getting this information out there, and hopefully the people who do show up will have some good news to receive. So thank you, Dr. Joel Wallach, once again, for humbly just really picking my platform to get the good news out.
Well, God bless you, Brother Ron, for all the great work you do, and look forward to seeing you in person, give you a great big hug, and we'll look forward to meeting all your listeners, and we'll do great things with your family.
Yes, sir, because the best is yet to come. So thank you so much, and you have a great night.
You too. God bless.
God bless. And that does it, ladies and gentlemen, scholars and laymen, for this edition of the Artivist Presents We All Be News and Radio. And we'll be back as soon as possible. So much information. Please catch us in the archives. blogtalkradio.com, we all be, blogtalkradio.com/we all be, or go on YouTube at youtube.com/we all be TV, and also youtube.com/we all be TV2. That's numeric 2. Y'all take care. God bless, and keep the faith. Keep producing and pushing, and we do indeed love you all madly.